Chapter 6, The Mauryan Empire. Terms to learn. Dhamma, Ashoka's religious views based on non-violence, truth and pity. It is Prakrit form of Sanskrit word dharma. Code of conduct, general rules to be followed by people in conducting their day-to-day activities. Edicts, instructions or orders issued by the king. Dhamma Mahamatras, official appointed by Ashoka to teach people about his Dhamma. Ambassadors, a messenger appointed by a ruler and sent to some other kingdom or empire to maintain good relations with it. In the previous lesson, you have studied that the Magad became the strongest kingdom during the period from 600 BC to 400 BC. The Nanda was the last dynasty that ruled over Magad. Mahapadmananda was the founder of this dynasty. The Nandas collected heavy taxes and they kept a huge army, but they were not efficient rulers. It was not difficult to overthrow them. A Brahmin minister called Chanakya, also known as Kautilya or Vishnugupta, trained Chandragupta of the Maurya family, who overthrew the last Nanda king, Dhananan, and set up the Mauryan Empire in North India. The accession of Chandragupta Maurya to the throne of Magad in 322 BC marks the beginning of the Maurya dynasty. The Mauryan Empire was the first greatest empire to be established in Indian history. Earlier there were kingdoms. An empire is different from a kingdom because it covers a larger area than a kingdom. The ruler of a kingdom is called the king, while the ruler of an empire is called an emperor. Conquest of Chandragupta. Chandragupta, with the help of his guide Chanakya, overthrew the Nandas from Magad and the Greeks from the northwest frontier and Punjab and unified a large part of India. His empire extended from the Hindu Kush in the west to Bengal in the east and from the Himalayas in the north to Mysore in the south. War with Seleucus. Seleucus Nicator was the army commander of Alexander. After the death of Alexander, Seleucus captured the throne of Babylon. He planned to recover the Indian territory conquered by Alexander, so Seleucus attacked India. In 305 BC, Chandragupta Maurya defeated Seleucus. Seleucus surrendered and married his daughter Helen to Chandragupta. Seleucus sent a Greek ambassador, Megasthenes, to the court of Chandragupta Maurya. Megasthenes stayed there for about 6 years and wrote about his impression of the court and the capital Patliputra in his book Indica. Kautilya Arthashastra also gives an elaborate account of Chandragupta's empire. Chandragupta Maurya ruled over his extensive empire for 24 years. He was succeeded by his son Bindusara in 298 BC. Bindusar ruled for about 25 years. Ashoka the Great. Bindusar's son Ashoka succeeded the throne of Patliputra in 273 BC. He is considered one of the greatest empires of India. His empire extended from Hindu Kush in the northwest to Bengal in the east and from the Himalayas in the north to river Pennar in the south. Some parts of Afghanistan, Nepal and Kashmir were also included in his empire. Thus, it was the biggest empire in ancient India. But the conquest of Kalinga was the most important event of his region. Ashoka's war with Kalinga. Kalinga is the Asian name of modern coastal Orissa. This war proved to be a turning point in Ashoka's life. The people of Kalinga were brave and self-respecting. They didn't surrender themselves. When Ashoka invaded Kalinga, a fierce battle took place between Ashoka's army and the army of Kalinga. He conquered Kalinga, but he was so horrified to see the bloodshed and destruction that he decided not to fight anymore. Worse, about 1.5 lakh people were captured and lakhs of people died, including innocent men, women and children. In one of his inscriptions, Ashoka said, "I believe that winning people over through dharma is much better than conquering them by force. I am inscribing this message for the future so that my son and grandson after me should not think about war. Instead, they should think about how to spread Dhamma." Ashoka's Dharma. The word Dhamma is the Prakrit form of Sanskrit word Dharma. Ashoka's Dharma did not involve worship of a god or performance of a sacrifice. It was based on pity, moral life, rightness, charity, truth and non-violence. According to Dhamma, the king had to protect the welfare of people as a father protects the welfare of his children. There were a number of problems that troubled him. People in the empire followed different religious faiths and this sometimes led to conflict. Animals were sacrificed. Slaves and servants were ill-treated. Besides, there were quarrels in families and among neighbors. Ashoka felt that it was his duty to solve these problems. So he appointed official called Dhamma Mahamatas who went from place to place teaching people about Ashoka's Dhamma. Beside Ashoka got his message inscribed on rocks and pillars and instructed his officials to read his message to those who could not read it themselves. Ashoka had great stone pillars erected throughout his empire with his principles of Dhamma inscribed on them. In these inscriptions, he instructed his people to revere all living creatures and to have tolerance for all religious faiths. They were a kind of code of conduct for his people. The language of the edicts was Prakrit written in Brahmari script. These inscriptions provide us valuable information about the ideas and beliefs of Ashoka. Ashoka as a Buddhist. After the Kalinga War, Ashoka adopted non-violence and peace as the main principle of his life. He adopted Buddhism and declared Buddhism as the state religion. He built stupas and viharas. He went on pilgrim to various Buddhist sacred places. He sent Buddhist missions to various parts of India. He sent his son Mahendra and daughter Sanghamitra to Sri Lanka to propagate Buddhism. It was during the reign of Ashoka that Buddhism became an important religion. Ashoka's administration. Ashoka ruled his vast empire from his capital city Patliputra, Patna. He was assisted by a council of ministers. The empire was divided into 5 provinces: Central Province, Western Province, Kalinga Province, Southern Province, Punjab Province. The provinces were headed by governors. These governors belonged to the royal family, usually princes. The princes were further subdivided into districts which were looked by the Sathanakas. The districts were made up of several villages which were looked after by village headmen called Graminis. There were many other officers who helped in the administration. Some worked as tax collectors, some maintained the record of tax collection, some worked as judges. Dharma Mahamatas inspected the local work, listened to the people's problem and persuaded the people to follow the Dhamma. Ashoka took great interest in the welfare of his subjects. He built roads, planted shady trees along the roads, dug wells, built rest houses, etc. He opened hospitals for men and animals. Ashoka died in 232 BC. After ruling for about 40 years, after the War of Kalinga, he adopted the policy of non-violence and truth. The national emblem of our country is adopted from the pillar of his lion capital at Sarnath. Its key message is truth only triumphs. Decline of the Mauryan Empire. After the death of Ashoka, the Mauryan Empire began to decline. The following reasons are suggested for the decline of the Mauryan Empire. First, the successor of Ashoka were weak rulers. They could not manage the affairs of the vast empire. Second, the strict adherence to the policy of non-violence weakened the spirit of the soldiers. They became inactive. Third, the ban on animal sacrifice made the Brahmins to revolt against the Ashoka's policy of non-violence. In 185 BC, Pushyamitra, the Brahmin commander-in-chief of the last Mauryan king, killed him and ascended the throne. He laid the foundation of Shugna dynasty, which ruled for a period of more than 100 years, 185 to 173 BC. Lesson at a glance. Chandragupta Maurya founded a large empire in the Indian subcontinent by overthrowing the rule of Nanda dynasty from Magad in 322 BC with the help of Chanakya. In 305 BC, Chandragupta defeated Seleucus, who had invaded India to recapture the Indian territories conquered by Alexander. Seleucus married his daughter Helen to Chandragupta and sent Megasthenes to Chandragupta's court as his ambassador. Kautilya's Arthashastra and Megasthenes' account tell us about the regime of Chandragupta. After the death of Chandragupta, Bindusara ascended the throne in 298 BC. Bindusara's son Ashoka ascended the throne in 273 BC. He is considered one of the greatest empires of India. His empire extended over a very large area. The War of Kalinga proved to be a turning point in Ashoka's life. He was so horrified to see the bloodshed and devastation caused by war that he decided not to fight any more wars. Ashoka adopted Buddhism and followed the policy of non-violence. He spread his views of Dhamma through various inscriptions engraved on pillars.